Am I the butthole for telling my parents they still don't have a biological grandchild? I have 3 adopted children, and my parents have so far been good grandparents to them. They've never mentioned to me or my husband, or to the kids, anything about having a problem that I adopted instead of having biological children. My brother and his wife have a 3-month-old son, who was conceived with a sperm donor. I know this because my brother's wife talked about it with me, but my parents were not aware. They treated my nephew the same as they treated my kids when they were babies, so I've never been concerned that my kids would be seen as lesser because they're adopted while my nephew was supposedly their biological grandchild. Which is why I was so surprised and confused that my parents have been talking about how excited they are to have their first Christmas with their biological grandchild, and that they did a big expensive holiday photoshoot with my brother, his wife, and his son, something they've never done with my kids. They were the ones who suggested it to my brother. It's not like it's just because he asked and I didn't. The weirdest part was that they casually mentioned some of the things they bought for my nephew for Christmas. As far as I can tell, they're spending more on him than they are for my 3 kids combined, and it's far more than what they spent even when my oldest was a baby. In fact, when my kids were little they used to say there was no point buying expensive things for babies for Christmases or birthdays because they wouldn't remember it, and they'd rather spend the money when they're a little older. So my nephew is suddenly being favored over my kids. At the same time, my parents are starting to emphasize the fact that, as far as they know, my nephew is their biological grandchild. I pointed this out to them and said it bothers me. They denied treating them differently. They said I was being weird about money. I truly don't care about the money. I care about the difference in treatment and that my kids might notice how little they're getting from my parents compared to their cousin. And now for the part I'm starting to feel awful about. I told them the truth about my nephew. My parents are furious at my brother for not telling them and thank me for telling the truth. They keep saying he tricked them and gave them false hope about having a biological grandchild, which I guess answers the question on whether biology actually mattered to them. My husband says I did the right thing because it removed all the lies and secrets, and if they didn't care it wouldn't matter, but if they did care they deserve to know. My brother says it wasn't my secret to tell and I jeopardized his son's relationship with our parents. Soft everybody sucks here. It wasn't your secret to tell. You were wrong to do it that way. But grandparents are super and so is your brother. Here's what would have been above board. Go to bro, tell him what you've seen and how it makes you feel, then tell him that he needs to tell his parents, and if he doesn't, you will. But you didn't. So, acknowledge that you handled your part badly, but that doesn't excuse everyone else's way worse behavior. Not the butthole, I'm prepared to be downvoted, but I'm willing to bet brother knew exactly how your parents felt about your kids and withheld the truth from them because he knew how they'd react. Sure, it was their info to tell, but they had no intention of saying anything of the like because they were enjoying the benefits that came with keeping their mouths shut. Your brother did not care that you or your kids were being treated differently or unfairly because he wasn't on the receiving end. Now that he is, he cares about privacy. Your actions might have been sus, but that doesn't make you the butthole here. Your brother, however, is. He was willing to do his own son a disservice by setting him up with a false relationship with his grandparents while teaching him that your kids were okay to be treated as less than. Nah, he got his just desserts, he just didn't count on eating them this soon. Am I the butthole for offering to support my adult daughter during a semester of graduate school? My wife and I have an adult daughter, Emily, 26 female, who is a great kid. Always the top of her class, excelled at extracurriculars, put herself through college on scholarships and part-time work, and moved to NYC essentially by herself right after graduation for a great job. When she was growing up, we got by, but were never rich. Emily never wanted for anything, but we did put a lot on credit cards to make ends meet for her. But since Emily left home, she has been entirely financially independent, and my wife and I both got significant promotions and now make about double what we did when Emily was a kid. I think important context is that my wife loves Emily, obviously, but is jealous of her. Emily is bright and achieves things effortlessly. She's never not gotten something she's wanted or gone after, sometimes because of us, and sometimes because she's just driven and bright. Emily, now 26, is in the top graduate program in her field. She got a full scholarship that covers tuition, but because it's New York, that doesn't mean much, so she pays for living expenses by maintaining her full-time job. The other day, Emily called us very upset, saying the program had changed a requirement, and she would now be required to take classes next semester only offered at normal work hours, meaning she'd have to quit her job to take the classes required. Overall, she'd be on the hook for probably about $10,000, assuming she got another job right when she graduated. She didn't ask us for money, just seemed frazzled and upset. In response, my wife said, "Well, I hope you're not calling because you think we'll give you the money. We can't do that for you." Emily's voice changed, and she said very coolly, "I wasn't. I'm sure I'll figure it out. Thank you for listening," and got off the phone. I was angry, because we absolutely had enough money to support Emily through one semester of school. She'd been financially independent for almost 8 years and had never asked us for anything. I later called Emily privately to tell her that if she needed money, we could more than spare it. She thanked me, but said she hadn't called to ask for money, only comfort, and she would figure it out. My wife is furious and says I undermined her by offering Emily money. I disagree, because we keep separate accounts, and this would have come from mine, so I didn't break any rules by offering our joint money. But she thinks I'm the butthole for making her look bad, and that she would have absolutely given it if Emily had asked. I think that she is being the butthole because sure, I have no doubt my wife would have given Emily the money, but she just wanted her to grovel for it. It's almost like she wanted to see how low Emily would stoop before she offered to bail her out. Our kid called us because she needed her parents and my wife cut her off before she could even let us support her. Am I the butthole for offering the money when my wife said we wouldn't? Not the butthole, but your wife is, and she probably just damaged her relationship with Emily some more. I say more, because given what you've said about your wife's competitiveness with her daughter, Emily is already likely aware of her crappy attitude. Not the butthole. You didn't make your wife look bad, she did that herself. Support your little girl. It sounds like she's doing everything right, you can afford it, and you can't take it with you. Not the butthole. Your wife made herself look bad. I'm guessing it's not the first time. It's not your job to not make her look bad, BTW. Well, I hope you're not calling because you think we'll give you the money. We can't do that for you. I grew up with a mother who was jealous and sharp, like your wife's comment above. I was close to my dad, but he always deferred to mother because she was difficult. Ultimately it did damage my relationship with my dad BC, he just didn't stand up for me. If there is a history here of your wife acting out BC of her jealousy, and you staying quiet to not make her look bad, please support your daughter now when she needs it. If I were Emily, I'd want to hear, and not privately but in front of your wife, Emily, I am so proud of you, and it would be an honor to help you out now. I'll touch base later to work out the details. And let the chips fall with your wife, I suspect it's overdue. Am I the butthole for not going to dinner because of my mom's boyfriend? When I, 25 male, was a full-time student I lived with my mom. During this time she got a boyfriend who treated me 2 different ways, well when my mom was around and horrible when she wasn't. I'm talking throwing beer bottles at me, telling me I'm a freak and a failure, and more. Since he treated me well when she was around, my mom had a hard time believing me. Ultimately, this led me to drop out to get away from them. Since then, my mom and I have worked to rebuild our relationship, and I've made it clear I don't want a relationship of any sort with her boyfriend. It usually works out that I'll work all major holidays and so she'll celebrate them with him. Then when I have a day off, we do something together. Christmas was supposed to be no different. This year she decided to have a private celebration with him, and a family dinner when I'm off. I have 1 day off between Christmas and New Year's. When her boyfriend found out that it was a family dinner, he insisted on coming. I told her that was fine and that I'd drop off her and my family's gifts sometime that day then. She insisted that I stay for dinner, that my fam is coming to see me anyways. I told her I'm not going if her BF is there, and that I've been abundantly clear about having no relationship with him. She's been insisting that I don't have to have a relationship with him to go to that dinner, and I said I don't care. I don't want to spend the only day off I have this holiday season with someone who makes me sick. My family has stepped in to let me know that since my mom is hosting she can invite who she wants. I've repeatedly countered that whole true. I can also decide that I don't want to go because of who she's invited. Am I the butthole here? Not the butthole. Your mom is free to invite who she wants, the people she invites are free to decline. Happy holidays. Not the butthole. You're being perfectly clear and reasonable about this. That your mother continues a relationship with someone who has been so abusive to you is sad. It says a lot about your character that you found a way to build boundaries that allow you to have a relationship with her anyway. Keep your boundaries. It's the healthy thing to do. Am I the butthole for telling my family I wouldn't be coming to Christmas because I wanted my kids to remember the holidays with me sober? I, 25 female, come from a big family of drinkers. Every special occasion, kids' birthday parties, Easter, ECT, is basically just an excuse for the adults to get as drunk as possible. My mom and aunts are usually plastered before the food is even done. Before I had kids I was a heavy drinker from the time I got up to the time I went to bed. My family got me started at drinking at 11. It was considered normal. When I found out I was pregnant with my oldest son, 3, I quit drinking completely. After I had him I would occasionally drink at family gatherings but could no longer keep up with everyone else who drank daily and would end up sitting by a toilet an hour or 2 in and miss the best parts. I now have another son and have completely stopped drinking. However, being sober at these family events made me realize how I don't want to be a part of it anymore, not just the drinking but the whole function in general. I let my family know I wouldn't be attending Christmas this year as I plan on doing something with just me and the kids. They asked why and I simply said I wanted to make memories with my kids sober. And that I didn't want them around a bunch of people drinking and smoking. My aunts took this as me calling them all alcoholics and now are telling everyone I'm in butthole for keeping the kids away from them, so am I the butthole? Edit. Thank you all for your lovely words. I'm trying really hard to break generational trauma, and I do consider myself recovering alcoholic. It was hard at first, but I'll do anything it takes to give my kids the life they deserve. Not the butthole. Congratulations on your sobriety. Being sober when everyone else is drunk is no fun at all, and I think it is truly wonderful that you want your kids to grow up differently and not see excessive alcohol consumption as the norm. Duh. Greater than my aunts took this as me calling them all alcoholics. You didn't say that, but if the shoe fits. Not the butthole. You are a mom who is prioritizing her kids and her own health. You are doing exactly what those kids need and deserve. Not the butthole. If they were willing to push drinking on a freaking 11-year-old kid and feel that defensive about their alcohol use and demand you expose your kids to it because your refusal makes them feel bad, then yeah. They are 100% alcoholics. You need to protect your kids. Not only is witnessing drunken adult antics potentially traumatizing, you were a child and they pushed excessive drinking on you. Do you honestly think they would refrain from doing the same to your kids? Slipping them sips when they think you won't notice and laughing about it behind your back? Am I the butthole for kicking out my fiance's older sister from our extravagant and showy wedding? My fiance, 36 male, and I, 28 female, are getting married at New Year's Eve. The wedding is going to go on from after Christmas Day to New Year's, as in my culture the weddings last several days. Everyone is happy and my in-laws love me, but my fiance's sister, however, is less than happy about all of it for some reason. She has it in me for some reason from day one. My fiancé used to be married previously and she prefers his ex, who I also get along well with. Sister, let's call her A, is very critical of the wedding. She first brought up how much money it costs and how it was a waste when the money could have gone towards more practical things. My mill shut her down, saying how it was my first wedding even if it was my fiancé's second and I deserve a good one. Then she started criticizing my wedding dress and jewelry, saying it was extravagant and very showy and gauche. Then A had a problem with dancing, saying she preferred the solemn church wedding my fiancé had with her ex. And her latest attack is on the number of the wedding days. A has made snide remarks about how the wedding is costing more than her mortgage. I can't believe you're going to do the wedding ceremonies for 5 days when there's so much people going without heating, and it's very weird to have people dance to choreography and on and one she goes. But this kind of wedding is all that I've dreamed of. It's normal in my culture. Everyone in my country of origin has weddings like this. It's a huge cause of celebration. I think the straw that broke the camel's back was the idea that my fiancé would be arriving on horseback for the main ceremony. I actually laughed out loud at this and said I was a controlling diva and that my fiancé made the mistake of his life leaving his ex-wife. She left him for another guy. We have all tried to explain to her that it's not her place to say these things, as we can have whatever kind of wedding we want. But I won't listen to her parents, brother or husband, and started saying a lot of mean things to me over dinner last night. I told her that if she hates the wedding so much she can just not come. I said that she and her husband won't be part of my spectacle anyway. My fiancé at this point interjected and said that her husband is my fiancé's friend from uni, so he's definitely coming. I then just started crying, left to her room. Now the problem is I really love my in-laws and I don't want to put them in a spot by basically making them take sides with their children. Also, A's husband is also a good friend and would see the whole thing blown over soon. Fiancé's adamant on sister not coming now and is calling her small-minded and bigoted. His words, not mine. Not the butthole. She wanted to ruin your experience and literally did anything she could to hurt and provoke you. Play stupid games and win stupid prizes. She did that to herself and got what she deserved. Not the butthole. I'm making an assumption here that you're Indian or from a similar background. I'm half Middle Eastern and we also have multi-day extravagant wedding ceremonies, and your fiancé and his family are not. It sounds like your Sil's objections to your cultural traditions are bigoted. I'm not sure why she even wants to participate if she has such a huge problem with you and your culture. Am I the butthole for telling my neighbor to stop using my driveway? For some context, we live in a city where some houses share driveways and most houses are 2 families, apartment upstairs and apartment downstairs. We own a 2-family house and there's another one next door where their front door for the upstairs apartment is next to our driveway. But they do have their own driveway. We have owned the house for 2 years now, but my husband has lived here his whole life. He says they've been using our driveway to park for a few minutes or to unload their groceries or have their users park in the driveway and have their food delivery drivers park in the driveway for years, and it's always annoyed him, but he didn't own the house then so he never said anything. Now that he does, we've asked them on multiple occasions to stop using our driveway, to a point we started putting a cone at the end of our driveway. Here's where the problem started. About 2 weeks ago I am making the bed and look over to the TV to see that there is someone parked in our driveway and our cone is moved to in front of our car. We park in the back of the driveway. It's the length of the house. So I go out there and see the car is turned off and there is no one around. I go up to their front door and shout up their stairs to tell them to move their car and they have to stop using my driveway and that I've told them multiple times. They have their own driveway, use it and to stop using ours. They started yelling that it was just for a few minutes blah blah blah. I told them I don't care. It's not your property and to stop doing it. Now a few days ago my husband wasn't home and the cone was at the end of the driveway. I walk over to the window and see they've moved the cone again and parked in our driveway to drop stuff off. I went out there and said, hey, stop using our freaking driveway. I don't know how many times I have to tell you, but do it again and I will contact your landlord and have your car towed. They stared, yelling at me that who cares, it's just a driveway. I told them when they start paying my property taxes they can use it, and when they own their own house they'll understand why it's so annoying to have people doing this. They moved their car while screaming out the window how miserable I am, and I just kept saying, thank you, and walked inside. But I wouldn't let them continue yelling and kept saying, thank you. They got out of their car and started to walk up to my house to fight me, and I just continued to walk inside. Am I the butthole here? Should I just let this go or stick to my guns? I wrote this at like 6 a.m. this morning and went back to sleep. But I did tell my husband about the fence idea someone had in the comments, and we will be putting one up once this polar vortex fricks off. Thank you guys. Not the butthole. No need to have more screaming matches. Have it towed once, it'll stop. You have already been too nice. Not the butthole, can you have them towed next time? Seems like it could escalate. Am I the butthole for not giving my little sister a toy that holds sentimental value to me? Today, my 14 male, mom, 41 female, came upstairs while I was on my computer. My little sister, 2 female, was already crying and had been for some time, according to my mom. My mom came into my room and proceeded to grab a toy that held sentimental value to me, which my mom did not buy for me, and show it to my little sister, which she didn't see until my mom picked it up and gained interest in it. I said not to take it, she already had plenty of toys downstairs, and my mom went downstairs angrily. My little sister threw up afterwards from crying, which she often does, and my mom blamed me for it. According to her logic, I should have given it to my little sister even if she might break it. Am I the butthole here? Not the butthole, you may only be 14, but you have every right to your own possessions, especially ones that weren't paid for by your mother. It sounds like your mom is just trying to take the easy way out of parenting your sister, to be honest. To keep your special items safe, make sure you hide them somewhere rather than keeping them out. Mom may try to take it while you're out or at school. Good luck, sweetie. Not the butthole, it's yours. Your mom shouldn't take without asking. Plus, if she has a ton of her own toys, mom should have gone with that. A baby will cry over many things, and who knows if your item would have stopped her throwing up. Am I the butthole for calling my boyfriend a misogynist? My boyfriend, 25 male, and I, 24 female, live in NYC, where I'm currently attending grad school. There is a homeless man who always hangs out around the entrance to the subway station I come out of when going to classes. He catcalls me every time I walk past him. Yesterday I asked my BF if he thought I should report the harassment to the police. For context, this has been going on for over a month now and it makes me feel unsafe. My BF's reaction kinda sucked. His attitude was basically that since the guy has never tried to touch me, I was making too big a deal out of it, and he suggested that I just take it as a compliment and not let it get to me so much. I honestly found that pretty sexist and called him out on it. I told him I thought his reaction was really disappointing and that I had never taken him to be a misogynist before. He got super offended at that and it turned into a bit of a fight. Was I being too harsh? For the record, I don't actually think he is a misogynist, but I do think what he said was sexist. Am I the butthole? Not the butthole. Take it as a compliment? Really? Yeah, not the butthole. I'm a dude who has luckily never had the encounter of catcalling, but I see how it makes women feel uncomfortable, and at risk. Also, who openly wants other men gawking at their your BF is one weird dude. Not the butthole, your boyfriend is being completely dismissive and disgusting. The fact that he doubled down proves that. He wouldn't be angry if part of him knew it was true. He was being misogynistic. Not sure if I would call the cops though, but that's only because in my experience with homeless people they'll either do nothing or make the situation 10x worse. I'm sorry about the catcalling though, I think you're completely in the right to be concerned about it. Not the butthole. What he said was privileged. He comes from a perspective of not having to watch his back when men catcall him or worry how it will escalate if someone isn't around to help. He's lucky he doesn't understand, but also he should try and understand. Am I the butthole for calling out my ex-in-laws for excluding our kids, their grandkids, from their Christmas gathering? I was married to my late wife for 5 years before she passed last year. Those 5 years were the best time of my life and I was head over heels in love with her the entire time. She was the most wonderful woman I've ever known. I have 2 kids from previous relationships and she treated them better than their bio moms. She bought them great gifts for their birthday and Christmas when their own bio moms wouldn't even call. After we got married, my late wife adopted my kids and they became our kids. Her family are Oz and never really approved of our relationship. They didn't meet my kids until the day of the wedding. Then it took my late wife arguing with them for months before they included the kids in family kids outings such as trips to Disney or vacations. Before she became sick, she was in a huge fight with her parents because they had a college fund for the rest of the grandkids except for our kids. Once she was diagnosed, they felt guilty and finally started college funds for ours. When she passed, we've had limited contact with her family. Last month I saw on social media that they're planning a Christmas in Italy. They're from there and still have family there, but our kids are not invited. I called them to chew them out. I don't care if they're not taking me, but these 2 kids are legally hers and are inheriting her estate. They're legally their grandkids. We're in a huge fight. They already left the country, but I'm making it known on all of their social media that they're actively excluding their grandkids. My parents are telling me to cut it back and think I'm taking it too far, but I don't think it's right for them to ignore 2 innocent kids. You're the butthole. Your entire post tells the world you're an entitled Let's look at it from your in-laws' POV. Their daughter/sister married a guy with 2 children from 2 different women. Then they're guilted into providing college funds for 2 children with whom they have no connection. Now the deadbeat dad is trying to pubic shame them into paying for and taking these 2 children overseas to meet complete strangers. You're the butthole X millions. You're the butthole. I'm sorry for your loss, I really am. But, you knew that your in-laws weren't fans of you. You don't like them and call them buttholes. You admit that they didn't approve of your relationship. Now that their daughter is gone, why would they put time and effort into maintaining relationships with you and your kids? You saw your wife as your kids' mom. She saw herself as their mom. But they never did. They saw them as yours. And now, with their daughter gone, they don't see the point of doing so. And they're allowed to do so. You must have known how they felt. Them not maintaining contact, and now, involving the kids in their activities cannot have come as a total surprise, I hope. So why would you want to subject your kids to people who clearly don't like them? Am I the butthole for using the Christmas card my mom wanted over the Christmas card my wife wanted? My 25 female, mom, 67 female, is going to die soon. My family has known this for a few months. She's had ongoing health problems her whole life and we don't think she'll make it to 70, so we want her to enjoy the last years of her life as best as she can. She's always wanted a large family photo with me and my siblings plus our SOs. My wife, 26 female, loves the idea of a large family card like this. Last night my mom and I were scrolling through her camera trying to find good photos for the back of the Christmas card when we stumbled upon a photo of her dog sitting on the couch with his paws on our coffee table. It looked like he might be talking to the Alexa sitting at the table. My mom started smiling really big and asked me if I could make it look like her dog was asking the Alexa to play Who Let the Dogs Out. I edited the photo, and it looked pretty cringy, but my mom loved it. She asked if we could put that on the back instead of the other photos. I said of course. One side was a cute photo of my family and the other was a funny photo of my mom's dog. We printed them and sent them out. When the card my wife and I had ordered arrived, she was pissed. She went off on me for putting the quote a photo of that nasty-ass dog with a stupid meme a 10-yo could have thought of. I'd known she hadn't liked my mom's dog very much, but I didn't think she'd get this mad. Since we are hosting Christmas, she didn't want the ugly card I made with my mom displayed. She made another Christmas card and told me to send them out to everyone with apologies for the joke card. I said no. I changed 2022 to 2023 on the card she made and said we'll use them next year. I put them in a box and that was that. My wife is beyond furious, telling me I chose my mom over my life partner. She's been tearing the house apart trying to find the card she made. Before I was so confident that I was right, but seeing her this mad has made me wonder, am I the butthole? Edit. The card was written in my family's name: mom, dad, siblings, SO, me. My older brother suggested couples therapy, which my wife and I think is a good idea. My wife and I have agreed to send out the other cards my wife made without an apology, since I've already apologized to my wife. And yes, my wife and mother don't get along. Edit 2. A lot of the comments have been berating me for having a large family Christmas card, and to that, I say, I just wanted my mom to be happy. My family wanted something that we could all bond over before my mom passes. This was a one-time thing. Holy crap, everybody sucks here. First, it's a freaking card. The issue isn't the photo, it's your wife's jealousy and drama with your mom. Do they butt heads often? Because that's a boatload of crazy overreaction. Second, absolutely you should have discussed it with your wife first before just ordering the damn cards. Clearly, she had a say and wanted to be involved. You both need to learn to communicate and probably need some serious therapy. Not the butthole. Your wife sounds controlling and also sounds like she has no sense of humor. Let the dying woman have an ugly dog picture. Geez. Not the butthole. If this is likely to be your mom's last Christmas, that card will mean a great deal to you later because you will remember the time you made it with her and how happy she was about it. Your wife overreacted and it sounds like she's being a bit thoughtless about the needs and feelings of others. Am I the butthole for not wanting to see my mom before she dies? Am I the butthole for not wanting contact with my mom/see her before she dies? Background: my mom was married before being with my dad, had 3 kids. Married my had 2. They got divorced, she had 3 more with the next guy she was with. Because of different reasons she was not given custody of any of her kids. However, me and my full brother had supervised visitation once a month. It started with being at DFS, progressed to my grandparents' house. When it got moved there she never showed. I was about 7/8 at that time. I can remember every month being so excited to see her just to be told she didn't come. Eventually I stopped asking, who wants to be disappointed? Fast forward, I'm now 33, apparently she is not in the best of health. My half-sibs want me to see her soon, before she dies. But, it's been 15+ years since we've seen each other. I have no desire to see her one last time. No amends need to be made. My sibs think I should bury the past, forgive her. Am I the butthole? Not the butthole. The decision is entirely yours to make and your siblings should respect your decision either way. Not the butthole. Blood relationships are an accident of birth. You owe no one a place in your life if you don't want them to be there, especially if you don't feel that you have a relationship, or had a toxic one, with them. If you are at peace with the idea of not seeing her before she passes, then so be it. No reason to see her. Am I the butthole for thinking it is not normal for family members that are visiting to eat from your fridge without asking? My husband's family is staying with us for the holidays. I just realized they are helping themselves to pretty much anything in our fridge and sometimes leaving stuff out when they are done. I was very bothered by this as I was raised totally differently. I grew up poor, with sometimes not a lot to eat and he didn't, and this is highly rude to me. My husband insists I'm crazy, selfish and that it is normal and I just need to get over it. I also want to mention my husband and I are both having completely separate spending accounts. He buys his groceries, I buy mine. He makes 3x what I make, so them eating some of my stuff has a bigger financial impact on me than him. He offered to buy back what they had, but it is more the fact they thought it would be okay that bothers me, since they know we have separate groceries. We used to share the grocery bill, but he would control what I got and if it was necessary, so this was the first reason why we did that. I had enough of having to justify why I wanted to buy something, while shopping at the store. The other reason is he has a very big family. I just have my mom, so I was not happy to have to contribute 50% of the bill when they visited, and also them and I don't get along well. Edit: since it is his family, he cooks for them, so they were not just left to starve but they got hungry I guess and just took whatever looked good. Edit: it is established that guests can do whatever they want when they come here. They don't even knock, which is another thing that I find a little irritating. They walked on things I would have rather kept private. But when we ran into this issue at first, I mentioned to him and his family that I live here too and that I am not okay with them not asking first, and I was just made fun of. Edit: we talked to his family, since my family would never do that, and they just made fun of me for being cheap and how ridiculous it was that I had a spot for my groceries. So they know, they just choose to not take my feeling into consideration. Also, my husband support them, so I guess they feel free to do so as well, but that's another issue. Edit: I forgot to mention I am not American and I never saw this done in my country, but I can't say that it is the norm, just that I never saw it done before. Edit: when I first moved in with my husband, I was not legally allowed to work because of visa stuff, but I had saved money because I knew about it. He knew that I might run out before I got a job. Since I couldn't contribute towards the house and bills, only groceries, I guess that could have been the reason they thought I wasn't allowed to voice my demands, as they call them. And this just became the norm. I didn't think about this until tonight, honestly. It's pretty normal for family who is staying with you to eat from your fridge. I've never heard of a married couple who buy separate groceries. INFO, why don't you just talk to them about it? Edit: I think I've settled and everybody sucks here. Your family is belittling you, your husband is potentially controlling, but you are being rude, unaccommodating, and dramatic. He offered to buy back what they had, but it is more the fact they thought it would be okay that bothers me. Am Sue confused on the buying separate groceries as a married couple? Do you also each get a shelf in your fridge that you don't share with each other? I guess you need to go and put labels on all your food that says your name and not to touch. This is a problem between you and your husband, not you and your in-laws. He grew up in a family where this was normal behavior, and he has seemingly given them permission to do so now. While I would never go rooting through someone's fridge or pantry without permission, it is common to invite house guests to help themselves, and it seems that is what's happening here. They need to be respectful and clean up after themselves, and since you and your husband apparently don't share food, you need to have him request they stop eating your stuff, unless you are willing to accept his paying you back for whatever they use during their stay. Not the butthole. Leaving food out and making fun of your expectations is not okay. Also, it is your husband's job to make sure his family is not disrupting your routine or making you uncomfortable. He needs to do a better job at managing his family. That said, I think it is very common to give close family or friend houseguests permission to get their own food out of the refrigerator. In my opinion, that is preferable to having to offer and prep each and every meal and snack for one's houseguests. A good host will inform their guests what food is and is not available for them. He or she will also politely define the host's expectations for cleanliness and chores. It would be a simple matter for your husband to point out which sections of the refrigerator and pantry are off limits, and to insist his family clean up after themselves. Am I the butthole for doing a maternity photoshoot without my stepchildren? I am expecting my first baby and I am a stepmom to my husband's 2 children. Jake is 9 and Sophie is 8. We have been married for 2 years and together for 5. My parents gifted me a maternity shoot for an early Christmas gift and I had the shoot a few days ago. My stepchildren did not want to take part in it and I went ahead without getting photos of them with me and my bump. This really angered my eels who believed I should have included them. But my husband and I did ask, and my husband encouraged them to join in. They did not want to. We do not have the closest relationship. They are fine with me but resist a closeness and felt that being in those photos would be too close. Eels said I should have cancelled the photo shoot and done them another day, when the kids would join in. They said I should have gone to their mother and tried to convince her to talk them into it, and to work on my relationship with her since she engages in parental alienation, and that is something we have been to court for and my husband has spoken to his ex about, and make it so the kids would feel like they can be close to me and can be excited for a baby sibling. Over and over they said I should have done more to get them in the photos or cancelled. My husband was not home at the time. I felt bad enough. There was some guilt for me for not having them in any. I would have loved some photos with them. But I also don't want to need to force it either and have them angry at being forced. My husband was so unhappy with his parents when he got home and I told them. They told him I was the one who decided photos were more important than being a good mom to our older children. I told them I was not Jake and Sophie's mom and as much as I love them, I don't think I will ever be a woman they consider a mom figure. Jake and Sophie heard their grandparents and said I am not their mom and why would they ever be in the stupid photos. The day after my eels sent me texts about it and I asked them to please understand that I would have loved them in the photos. But they told me if I truly felt that way I would not have done them without the children. Am I the butthole for taking the photos without my stepchildren? Not the butthole. You asked the kids, they said no, you respected their boundaries. That's exactly what should have happened. I'm not sure why your in-laws are so hell-bent on ignoring their grandchildren's boundaries, but it's completely inappropriate. Not the butthole. You were actually respecting the children's wishes, which is great. Sorry there's all this drama around what should be a nice thing for y'all. Hope y'all have a healthy baby, and the older kids will come around eventually. Not the butthole, his parents are being manipulative. If they don't want to shoot, it makes no sense to force them. Would I be the butthole if I stopped supporting someone financially? Okay, so here's the story. My ex/baby daddy is just a hound dog. Simple way to put it. He has 5 kids with 5 different women. Nothing more needs to be said about that as he is not the topic here. I am mom to child 2. After my ex had separated from mom 3 and mom 4, I friended both of them on Facebook as they were caring for my child's siblings. He is currently dating mom 5. And I wanted to ensure I was still in contact so when I get the chance to be in their neighborhood, I can have my child visit his siblings. They are about 2 hours away from where we are so it isn't an easy trip. Mom 4 has reached out multiple times regarding money. I am doing well for myself and she is struggling. She ran into an issue of being homeless and certain people around her had gotten CPS involved. She's been trying to get her kids, yes plural as she had 2 more after the first, back from CPS. She's been struggling a lot and I had helped her out by giving money whenever she asked. It was always said to be for diapers, formula, food, presents for their birthdays, gas to make it to work, court, or to visit the kids. All sorts of things. Couldn't prove it if she actually used the money for what she said and I didn't ask. I couldn't really tell you how much I had given but I have receipts and can check. It isn't important though. She had always said she would pay me back but I didn't hold my breath in that. And I don't ask her to either. Well I just found out today, not from her either, that she had officially lost custody of her children. They have been adopted to a loving home and she will no longer have them or see them. I feel kind of bad for wanting to decide to basically cut her off. I'm ready to block her entirely and move on with my life. The only reason I even was in contact was for the child that was directly related to mine. Since that is now not a thing, I don't need her to be around anymore. Would I be the butthole if I just stop all contact and decide not to give her more money? Edit, I forgot to mention, In case it was relevant, I have been helping her out for the past 5 years. So it's not like a quick decision to start and stop. But the length of time of why I feel bad and thought I might be the butthole here. Not the butthole. You've given her a lot when you didn't know her anything. You probably don't have the whole story on what's going on. It's not like you were friends before and you're giving up on her. You were trying to help the kids, not her. Not the butthole. She for the most part asked you to help her with parenting related costs, which you were willing to help out with because you had a vested interest in the health, safety, and happiness of your child's sibling. You weren't required to have that interest at all, and you've already done more than most people would. If she asks you again, feel free to ignore or decline. Would I be the butthole, after constantly asking my mother not to have food contains nuts at Christmas dinner due to my so allergy? Would I be the butthole for putting anything in the bin that has nuts in it? For years I've told my mother that my so is allergic to nuts and is unable to eat them, but year in year out nuts are on everything with I forgot. Recently we went over to my mother's house for lunch and lo and behold, nuts on the homemade bread, and then came the I forgot. Can't you pick them out? My so then was offered stale crackers as a substitute. So to the would I be the butthole. The impending Christmas dinner, I asked months ago for there to be no nuts and the response is well she doesn't have to eat them. Argument after argument gets to the point of okay, no nuts. Till the next day I hear nuts are back on the menu. I thought finally we had got to the stage where nuts were off the menu. Till 24 hours before Christmas dinner, I hear other people are also bringing food and these people have not been informed of my so allergy, or the no nuts policy. So I can guarantee there will be nuts, and Christmas dinner will be once again her excluded from parts of the meal and told I forgot. Well, can't you just pick them out? So, after constantly asking my mother not to have food contains nuts at Christmas dinner due to my so allergy, would I be the butthole for putting anything in the bin that has nuts in it? No, don't throw it out. Just don't show up. When she calls to ask why you are not there, say I forgot. You're the butthole. It would be rude to the other people, especially since you say they haven't been advised about so's nut allergy. Call your mother and explain that since she continually disrespects your so, you will not attend any events in her home involving any meals. Explain that you will occasionally host her at your home or at a restaurant where your so can find dishes that don't contain nuts. Then stand firm on this point. If other people text you and ask where you are, reply I'm sorry. So has a very serious nut allergy which my mother continuously ignores. We will be celebrating at home to avoid any possible exposure and ensuing health issues. Am I the butthole for walking out of a church before an argument was about to get heated? I, 24 female, sometimes go to a church to visit with my friend. There's this really sweet old lady there, and she wanted me to meet her son, 26 male, to see if something would spark. We met, got along, and might meet up in the future. Some context, I usually wear long skirts to this church because I think they're pretty, but this time I was wearing blue jeans. They were pretty tight, and his mom confronted me and said they weren't appropriate, and I asked if it was really that important. Things kind of escalated, and a few people were starting to look, so I left. The guy I was meeting later texted me, I'll just put his text verbatim. Hey, I know my mom was being a jerk, but she's going through a lot, could you humor her? His mom is under a lot of stress, and I feel bad. Am I the butthole? She was triggered by jeans. Let that sink in, let his response sink in and realize you need neither of them in your life. Not the butthole. You're not the butthole, but this a perfect example of what would be a recurring theme for your future if you pursue a relationship with this guy. Just be sure to remember that it wouldn't be a mill issue but one with your partner. Not the butthole. If anything, it was very mature of you to walk away when you realized that things were escalating, and the fact that this guy thinks you should just stand there and take it for her sake kind of rubs me the wrong way. Not the butthole. Just because she is going through a lot doesn't mean she can dictate how you dress. Am I the butthole for not giving a friend the phone number of another friend out of fear he only wants his number to harass him? I have a friend who is gay and I've recently met in college. We'll call him James for the sake of privacy. Today I was in my hometown hanging out with another friend who I've known since childhood. We'll call him Marcus. All three of us are 18M. I told Marcus about James and said I've only known him for a few months but he seems like a good friend. Everything was going well up until I casually mentioned James is gay. Marcus then started saying some extremely disrespectful things regarding Jamie's sexual orientation. I won't get into detail about the things he said but I can assure you they were disgusting. He then asked me to give him Jamie's phone number so that he could call him and have some laughs. This is literally what he said. I refused. He then tried to convince me saying James would have no way of knowing of my involvement in the prank call. But I told him I didn't care about that. I didn't want to give him the number because I was certain he was planning to make fun of James for his sexual orientation and I wasn't going to let anyone disrespect my friend like that, even if it was coming from another friend. Marcus then went on the defensive and said that I was a traitor for choosing to defend someone who I had met a few months ago instead of siding with the friend who I've known since elementary school. At this point, I was almost about to go home and Marcus and I spent a couple minutes in silence. Marcus then apologized for having called me a traitor like that and swore to me he didn't want to prank James anymore, but he still wanted his phone number because he was curious about hearing how James sounded like. But I refused again and told him that I would maybe consider giving him Jamie's number some other day, but today I just wanted to go home and forget about it. Marcus insists he is sorry about wanting to prank James, but I'm still not fully convinced and I don't want to give him the phone number. Am I the butthole? Not the butthole. Never give out anyone's phone number without their permission. You need to get rid of Marcus, like yesterday. Not the butthole. Marcus is not the butthole for not giving the number out. It was the correct choice, and you should never give someone's number out without their say, even in normal circumstances. However, you are the butthole for staying friends with someone this cruel and unkind. It reflects poorly on you. Am I the butthole for trying to get my husband to watch the kid while I make lots of Christmas cookies? So, to preface, sometime around Halloween every year, I turn into a massive people pleaser, especially when it comes to cooking/baking. I was originally going for 7 kinds of traditional Norwegian Christmas cookies this year in honor of my grandma, instead of just doing the few that my mom likes. I've only gotten 5 kinds done, largely because my husband keeps telling me that I don't have to bake so many cookies for my ungrateful-ass family, that his family doesn't expect me to bake any cookies unless I want to, and now he won't even try the ones I've already baked because he doesn't like sweets and thinks I'm wasting my time. I even ordered a kroomkake iron, which finally came. We've been snowed in for over a week now. I'm seriously considering not even trying to use it. I'm just dreading being told that I don't have to do this, when yes, I do want to do this. I want to make the 7 kinds of cookies for my grandma, since she hasn't even been able to stand long enough to bake for several years now. My mom hates all her favorite cookies with a passion and won't bake them. Is cardamom really that nasty? My gran is going downhill, bedridden, and I don't dare hope she will make it another year that way. I just don't want to try to balance handling hot pans and hotter irons and frying oil and cooling racks with a toddler running around in the kitchen incessantly touching everything. Or a toddler throwing hours of screaming fits in the baby corral every time I pick up the rolling pin. I just want my husband to chill out with trying to do projects when it's below freezing and go have fun with the kiddo while I get to do my happy little seasonal people-pleasing thing for a couple more days. Same thing with my dad, who ostensibly comes up to watch our daughter, but is getting more and more needy and childlike himself and seems to find something to go sulk about whenever I actually need him to watch the kid. I just feel like I'm failing everyone here, and hiring an outside babysitter is not an option for a variety of reasons. Am I the butthole for asking my husband and my father to just fricking watch the kid while I try to uphold this tradition one more time for my grandma, knowing that this might actually be her last Christmas? Am I the butthole for even being upset about this? Not the butthole for expecting your husband to be an actual father to his children. You're the butthole for complaining and expecting your father to watch the kids. He didn't make them. I'm a compulsive baker too, so I feel your pain. I think it's a lovely thing to do for your grandmother, but I think you also need boundaries. Here's my thoughts. Limit yourself to 1 batch of each. I would say half a batch, but we all know that some won't turn out right, so give yourself room. The goal here is to get 1 to 3 good cookies of each kind for grandma. Everything beyond that is gravy for anyone who's interested. Don't try to please everyone because they clearly aren't in this with you. Yes. Your husband and father can watch the kid without complaining for 2 hours. And shame on them if they can't. I'm now an adult and my mom and I do all the traditional Italian cookies together every year, and it's one of my favorite things. Toddlers are too little for some types of baking, but eventually he'll be old enough to help and it'll be more fun. Not the butthole. Hang in there. Not the butthole. Fathers need to father, not watch the kids or babysit.